Hello and welcome to Valley Girls, the bi-weekly podcast exploring everything there is to see, do, try, eat, and experience in New York's Hudson Valley by talking to the makers, the doers, the growers, the creators, and all the unique voices of the Hudson Valley. I'm Jenny Leifer.
And I'm Jennifer Santiago, and together as the Valley Girls, we're telling the Hudson Valley story one episode at a time. We're so happy you're here.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Valley Girls. It's been a long winter and we are eager to see the first signs of spring.
Yeah, my grandmother was a big list maker, and she had a list that she kept for probably decades. Every year she would record the day she saw the first robin. So to me, seeing the first robin is still like the ultimate sign of spring. So I'm very excited to welcome spring and look ahead to nice weather by talking about birds. I'm a big bird nerd. I love to watch birds. I will interrupt people in the middle of a conversation to point out a cool bird that I see. So I'm very excited to welcome Anne Swaim, who is the executive director of Sawmill River Audubon, to nerd out with us about birds.
Thank you. I'm looking forward. I could talk birds yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Yay.
That's wonderful. What we do. That's great. And I know Sawmill River Audubon offers educational programs, volunteer opportunities, engages in advocacy, and also owns several bird sanctuaries. Could you tell us a little bit more about the mission of the organization and give us an overview of all the work you're doing there?
Sure. So it's pretty amazing, actually, throughout the Hudson Valley. There's over 20 organizations that offer free bird walks, free programs. Most of them are Audubon chapters like us. Several are bird clubs. And so what we do at Sawmill River Audubon is also done at these other groups. I want to give a shout out to that because we're part of a community. So yeah, advocacy, education, sanctuaries. We're all about connecting people with nature. We want to make connections for people. And one of the best ways to connect people with nature and with habitats and with the seasons is with birds, because they're the most visible wildlife on the planet. They fly, they make noise, they're around in all four seasons, largely diurnal, daytime, summer, nighttime. And so they're the most visible wildlife on the planet. And when we walk into a habitat, we can tell how healthy it is, literally, by the birds we hear and see there, because birds and habitats are, yeah. So that's what we're all about. We do that through school programs. This time of year, probably one or two bird walks a week. And I'm an unusual executive director. I keep the pleasure of leading a lot of those walks myself. And we do a lot, especially since the pandemic, we do a lot of Zoom, like today, but Zoom workshops and then in-person workshops. And then our sanctuaries are different pieces of land that people have set aside in this very expensive area of the northern suburbs of New York City. Our largest is 150 acres, smallest I was just on this morning doing a boundary walk before this is about 8 acres. But they're good. They have places for people to get away, and they protect wetlands, good bird habitat. Yeah.
Wow. And all of that is always free to the public.
Yeah, all free. Yeah, we do charge for our school programs because we pay our educators. We have some educators that go out for us into the local schools for both field trips and classroom programs.
That's great. I love how you said that, connecting people with nature. That's just what a beautiful mission that is. Yeah. And much needed.
In these crazy times more than ever.
Yes.
You know, our brains, our spirits.
Well, speaking of that, this is an unscientific, totally anecdotal observation on my part, but I feel like maybe when we were all stuck at home with the pandemic and we got tired of watching our sourdough starters grow mold, I feel like bird watching as a hobby, especially with younger people, sort of gained some momentum around that time. Is that true? Are you seeing more people kind of have an interest in bird watching in our area?
Oh, yeah. It was during the pandemic. In fact, we got some new board members just then, folks that were home with their kids, that particularly bird photography, and it's often been the entree. And then also there's so many very cool and active tech plus nature ways for people to enter birding. One of them is Cornell Lab of Ornithology's Merlin app, totally free, awesome. The other is obviously iNaturalist is another great way that we see people like crowdsourcing their nature experiences and sharing them in community. So that's very cool. But I do think both the time of the pandemic and our crazy times now that more and more people are being drawn to the outdoors. We're seeing that in increased visitation. Of course, it was crazy during the pandemic. The parks were like chock-a-block full, but that hasn't just dropped back down to pre-pandemic levels. The interest in being outside and just walking in the woods, let alone watching birds, is much greater than it was. And I think it's a mind, body, spirit thing that we're seeing. That people um, they want that connection. Yeah, they need it.
Absolutely.
Actually, we need it.
We
Yeah,
really do.
We
We
so do.
definitely
yeah.
do. And we are spoiled here, really, with the natural landscape in the Hudson Valley. So that is definitely a plus for us here. Is it a particularly good region for birding?
It's crazy good. So the Hudson Valley is a massive highway for birds for millennia. So there's a continent-wide migration of birds, and it's going on right now, of course, northbound. So birds that spent the winter in Central and South America fly north. Many of them do a trans-Gulf migration right across the Gulf of Mexico, and they come all the way across and hit Texas and that border, and then they go north. And one of their highways north, they follow geographic lines. They follow the Hudson River. So the Hudson River is a major highway for birds. And then on the other side, nearby, of course, is the Long Island Sound and the Atlantic coast. So there are two major highways running near our area and through our area, plus the mountains, which make updrafts for birds to follow, and the reservoir systems, lots of water habitats. And it's been largely reforested. If you look at the pattern of reforestation across Northeast US, we have more forest than we've had for centuries. A
Wow.
lot of it is a mixed suburban rural forest, but it's still treetops. It's still canopy touching that matters for birds. And yeah, it's great. I saw a map showing the number of birds that nest here, and it's really concentrated, particularly in the lower Hudson, but certainly up through pockets in the Adirondacks and in the Finger Lakes. New York is very, very birdy, which is great for birders.
I love that.
That's so
Makes us
great.
happy.
That's so
Yeah.
makes me so happy to hear. And especially when you talk about the abundance of trees and how we're seeing more trees than we have in a long time. That gave me chills. That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. They call it the rewilding of the megapolis. So
Hmm.
from like Atlanta up to Boston, there's a lot more suburban forest. Of course, there's always pressure on trees being cut down. And the big pressure, of course, is the tension with deer overbrowsing with the understory. That's
Mm.
pretty serious right now. But you have megafauna, things like bobcats, fishers, coyotes, bear that are like moving back in, right, to the suburban rural interface in the Northeast. And that's another story for another time. But the birds are here too because of the habitat. Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
optimistic. It gives me a lot of hope to hear that.
I
It really
know.
does.
That's so good.
Yeah.
It does have hope. It does have hope for
Yeah.
recovery. Yeah.
So you're talking about seasonal migration.
Hmm.
So I want to know about specific birds. What are some of the birds that are unique or exciting? So are there birds that live in the Hudson Valley area year round? Who are some of the coolest migrators that we get? Is there a particular species of bird? I mean, I get excited about everything. I get excited when I see raptors. Vultures are my favorite. I freak out when I hear an owl and I can never see the owl. I just always hear the owl. But anyway, is there like a holy grail of Hudson River birding, like the species that people wait their whole lives to see or photograph? Who's here?
It's so strange. When we go out on a bird walk and we run across other walkers, the one question they asked us is, have you seen any eagles?
Mm,
The bald eagle story in the Hudson Valley is extraordinary, right? Because 30
Hmm.
years ago they weren't here, and
yeah.
now
Yeah.
they are. 30 years ago there was one nest in all of New York State, way up north, and it was infertile because of DDT. And now we have more than 600 across the state, and 10 just in the lower Hudson Valley, 10 eagle nests. So a lot of times when people first come out, they really want to see bald eagles. Experienced birders enjoy that too. I never not look at an eagle when it flies over. It's wonderful. The other big thing that people come from around the world to hear, to see, is the warbler migration. These little bits of birds, they're like the size of the palm of your hand with little tweezer beaks to eat bugs at all levels of the forest and fields. They're neotropical migrants. They spend the winter in Central and South America, the new tropics, and then they pour through the Northeast, concentrated in May, up to their way, most of them to the boreal forests, where there's lots and lots of bugs, in northern New England and eastern Canada. And these birds are incredibly colorful and obviously named for all kinds of songs that they have too. But the warbler migration is a big deal for birders. And we have about a dozen warblers that nest here come back. A couple have already come back this early, and more in May. And then the raptors you mentioned, there's a big raptor migration through the Hudson Valley too. The ospreys were restored along with the bald eagles, peregrine falcons, which is an incredibly noble bird, size of a crow, found around the world, were restored like the bald eagles, and so they're present. I think probably another holy grail bird is, and this is probably a lot due to Harry Potter, is the snowy owl, because they come from the north to here for the winter. And I guess
Oh.
5, 6 years ago, we had a big what's called eruption, IR. Depends on food source and weather up in the Arctic. And we had snowy owls all the way down to Florida, which was crazy. I don't know that all of them did well, but we had quite a few right here. I think they were still building the Tappan Zee Cuomo Bridge then, and they were out on the barges. There was a snowy owl sitting out there in the middle of the river. So people are thrilled by owls. Owls are a winner.
Yes. I always think it's so thrilling when you're on the train on the Hudson line going along and you see the shorebirds just kind of waiting there or sitting in one of those kind of coves. That's very thrilling to me. So what are we getting there? Are we getting egrets? Are they
Yeah, so that's the thing. The water birds are sometimes easier for people to see and admire because they don't flit around like the warblers.
Yeah.
So we have some big ones. I mean, the great blue heron is 3 feet tall, a 6 foot wingspread. The great egret is the same size but pure white. And very cool. This is a whole shift in the last decade. We're actually starting to get sandhill cranes migrating up and down the Hudson, and they're nesting over in Orange County, Bashakill. They have got hundreds of them nesting at the top of the Finger Lakes, and that was the spread from the west going east into New York. So they're spectacular. They make this wild, rattling call, and I have wanted to see one flying up the Hudson. Some of my friends have, and I'm sure I will because they're increasing. They are very tall. They stand, I want to say, certainly more than 4 feet tall, and they're just magnificent birds. Yeah, the cranes, and they do this like dance thing to each other. It's cool. Yeah,
It's so wild how we can know how many nests there are of certain birds. And just, it's so fascinating to me to hear that there was only one nest for eagles in the north of New York. And it makes sense. I mean, growing up here, I don't remember seeing the eagles like we see now. And certainly driving down the thruway very often, you'll see them soaring right above.
Overhead,
yeah, right overhead. And and you said peregrine falcons. And I can't wait for my kids to hear this because I have to remember the name of the book now. But there was a book that they all.
My Side of the Mountain.
Yes, that's it.
Dean Craighead George, who lived in this town. That book
it.
shaped my environmental work as a
Wow.
kid. That was such a thrill when I moved here to meet her. She was still alive then. Yeah, Sam Gribley living in a tree in the Catskills and flying his peregrine.
Yes. Yeah. And they got so into it. They got so into it.
She
And
grew
so did
up
I.
in a raptor family. She actually learned about falconry from her brothers. Her brothers are famous wildlife biologists. That author, the Craighead boys, who have passed now too. That's so cool. But with birds and birders, people that have been birding for years and years, the thing that thrills them is when birds are so unexpected, you can all of a sudden get a bird from another part of the country or from a whole nother country just show up here. Weather, winds, a bird that took a wrong turn. I mean, there's a bird out west, southwest called the painted bunting. It has like 6 primary colors on it. You've seen pictures.
Beautiful, yeah.
They show up here sometimes. People are out there feeding, and all of a sudden there's a painted bunting there. And it's like a little smaller than a cardinal, bigger than a sparrow, and all these colors. And people are like, what? So that happens. And then like in SUNY Purchase in Rye, about, I want to say 20 years ago now, a mountain bluebird show up. Now this is a bird that lives above 5,000 feet in the Rockies. And he showed up in southern Westchester on the college campus, and people were like running around in circles, and they're beautiful. In fact, I'm headed back to Yellowstone with a group in May, and that's one of the birds I just love to see. It's this cerulean blue. It's yeah. So things like that.
Nice. A little bit off the script, and we're going to come back to the birds of the Hudson Valley, but how did you get into this?
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, scouts. And just on my own as a kid, My Side of the Mountain, falcons. My parents are really supportive. I had a grandmother who was really into birding. And she took me to what remains my most favorite birding spot, which is a massive wildlife sanctuary in South Jersey on the coast, where you can drive out this 10-mile road out through salt marshes. It's where I saw my first bald eagle on Christmas Day eating a
Wow.
goose. It was so cool. I
Wow.
think I was like 14, and that was incredibly rare for the East Coast at that point. So yeah, I was mentored by my parents, my grandmother, scouts. I was outside all summer long, listening and looking at nature with scout camps. And then I did study environmental biology in college, and then I did internships with Pennsylvania State Parks and other places that shaped me too. And I think a big thing about birding is it's a community. So there was a lot of community along the way that kind of encourages you. And we try to do that there's a New York State Young Birders Club, and we do that quite a bit there.
Cool.
That is great. And as much as, of course, we're focused on the Hudson Valley here with Valley Girls, it is fascinating to me when I travel and I see birds that are unique to that area. I have an aunt that lives in Florida, and we went to a sanctuary, and I was just blown away by the birds that we don't see
They're
up here.
amazing.
They
Yeah,
really are
the water birds in
incredible.
Florida are crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then even out just in Utah, there was this Jen. Remember, I sent you the picture of that magpie, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember the name of what type of magpie, but the colors on this thing were just phenomenal, and that long tail, it was just absolutely gorgeous. And I'm very excited because I'm going to Iceland soon, actually, when this will be coming out. I'll be
Puffins.
so it's puffin time. They're coming out. They're coming out. And I just
Oh.
can. Everyone's
Puffins.
like, oh, you're going to see the Northern Lights. I'm like, yeah, I actually saw that in New York. I want to see the puffins. It's going to be
Puffins
too
are
light to
great.
see the, yeah, it's going to be too light to see the Northern Lights, but I am so excited the puffins are coming back for the season.
Nice.
So definitely
Nice.
making a day trip for that. So here, not in Iceland, in Hurley, I have this great screened in porch, and I just love to sit out there and watch the birds and the chipmunks and our groundhogs that live on the property, much to my husband's chagrin, but I love it with the groundhogs. Do you have any tips for attracting birds to our backyards? Is there anything we shouldn't do?
Yeah. Well, there's a real awareness growing now of how birds are like so closely tied to native plants, because
Mm,
native plants are tied to native insects. And a lot of people have been led into buying shrubs and trees and flowers that are from other countries, and they're making a desert in their yard because those aren't connected with the local habitat. So people are trying to, first of all, think about native plants and shrubs and trees. They make a big difference for the health of the backyard and the birds' happiness, right? And so bird feeders are great. This time of year, people are looking south, and they are right in the DC area now, thinking about the hummingbirds coming back,
Yeah.
right?
I love
Because
that.
they're
We get a lot of
so
those in our backyard. I
cool.
love it. I love
They're
it.
so
So
cool. And
great.
they'll be back. I mean, basically pretty soon, about a week, depends on wind and weather. But the feeders are like a plus and minus thing.
Sure.
They're such a joy for people to see, but that sugar water on a hot day turns to alcohol
Mhm.
like really quick. Like even within the same day, you have to really be aware of that and change it out. Otherwise, you make the hummingbirds really sick. And even better, like is have hanging plants that they like, and there's a lot for that. Plants for birds. Yeah, Google plants for birds. It's from Audubon. And
Okay.
that will be a great resource. You put in your zip code and it gives you the trees and shrubs and flowers that are great just for where you live. Plants for birds is a big push. We actually do have a seed feeder here at Pine Sanctuary where I live through the year because we have a feeder cam on it,
Oh,
right?
great.
From our website, you can watch that. It is fun. But we have to be really careful, particularly when it's hot again, but actually year round, to clean the feeders once in a while, 1 in 10 Clorox, and keep an eye out that there aren't sick birds out there. Then you take them down for a few days. Water is huge year round. Any kind of water feature will really attract birds. Sometimes people have put up little drip fountains and actually have like a red-tailed hawk come in and take a drink and take a bath
Ooh.
in it, which is crazy to see.
So cool.
Water is huge. In the winter, it's a bit of a desert for birds, and so water, they need to bathe even on cold days and drink. People get, it's funny, it's like a little spa. They get heated bird baths. Yeah, you just plug them in and they keep them from freezing. I have a couple out here, and
Wow.
they're really popular for birds in the winter.
I could
So
see doing that in the winter. In the summer, I worry about attracting mosquitoes, and with all of the mosquito-borne
yeah,
illnesses now, having sitting
that's
water
why
in the
you want to
yard.
keep moving water.
Right. I was
You
just going to
put
say
a little
sitting
drip
water
on
is
it.
what attracts them. So moving
Yeah,
water would be better, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And they sell little wigglers that you can drop in that are solar powered that make little fountains in the bath.
That
And
makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
Okay. And we're actually in the process of clearing out part of our backyard to do a pollinator garden. I know that's more for bees and butterflies, but it makes sense that you say that about the native plants because that's what's going to attract them, right? It's the same idea with a pollinator garden.
yeah, that'll attract birds too. The pollinator garden will definitely attract
Yay.
birds. Yeah,
Nice.
cool.
That is very, very cool. Yeah, we had speaking of the feeder cams, we always get robin's nests on our yard and we had one under our porch one year and so we had the camera right on it and it was so amazing watching and
That is great.
oh, it was so cool and watching the mom bird and she'd fly off, the dad bird would stay and you could see them and then when they hatched and it was like the scariest thing. I felt like a secondary mama to them the first time that I went outside and they were on the ground and I was thinking, oh, like I had to think and stop for a minute. Like, what do we do? Is that supposed to happen? Do I touch them? Do I not touch them? What do we do? So
They were feathered. They had jumped. Yeah,
yes, they had
yeah.
jumped, right.
That's the biggest message to get to people is that
Yes.
the songbirds leap before they can fly, right?
Yes.
And they spend 2 or 3 days in the shrub layer. People are like, no, must rescue. I'm like, no, leave them, walk away.
Yes,
I had to dog. Yeah,
I had to restrain myself from trying to rescue them, but they did great and they were so adorable. Just like toddling around our backyard and
that's great.
yeah.
Tell Anne about your turkeys.
Oh, we have the
wild
most
turkeys.
incredible wild turkeys. Yes, I'll have to send you a picture and I'll post that we have the most beautiful wild turkeys in our neighborhood. And sometimes there's just a few of them, and sometimes there's, I don't know, it's not called a flock. What's a group of turkeys
It's
called?
called a rafter.
Rafter.
The group name is a rafter of turkeys. Isn't that funny?
That is funny. I did not know that. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll get 15, 20 of them at least on our property, and it's incredible.
That's
Yep.
neat.
Yep.
Yeah, they're big birds.
They are
You're looking at like
huge.
sparrows, and then boom, there's a turkey walking through.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially you get those toms and they're all
they're poofed
all
out
plumed
and
out.
Yeah.
beautiful. And I just love it when they're going along just like ducks in a row. They have the turkeys in a row and they cross the street right in front of my house. And there's like all the little ones following behind. And oh, I just love them. Yeah.
That's a brand new. 30 years ago, we didn't have turkeys.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
another
see, I don't
shift.
remember that growing up here.
So
That
they
makes
were
sense.
shifted. They were introduced and encouraged in Pennsylvania for hunting, and they shifted over and in Jersey. So that's those are birds that just moved in, which is pretty amazing. And there used to be rough grouse around. They're pretty much gone. They were a native kind of little chicken bird in the woods, and they probably couldn't compete. The turkeys have learned how to nest inside barberry bushes, which is an invasive in
Wow.
the woods, and they actually put their nest inside the barberry bush, and the raccoons won't get at them. Smart.
That is
Yeah.
smart.
The other one we see a lot is I want to say the tufted titmouse. Is that right?
Oh yeah, that's
I
cute.
love
They're so
that
cute. And they come
one.
and they're like, I get so worried they're going to hurt themselves, but they tap at our window all
Yeah.
the time. And the cats are so cute because they get up on their little seat at the window and chirp back to them. It's like they're having a
They've
conversation.
learned? You know what they've learned? Because we have lights inside our house, because they do this at our windows here too. They come because when the lights are on, or even a crack through the curtain is on at night, bugs come around the edge of the window. There's like moths and
Oh,
things
yeah,
like
yeah.
And so the tufted titmouse has learned to forage around the edge of windows and on windows to get the bugs that were attracted.
Brilliant.
Smart. That's smart.
All these
Yeah,
things
they
we're
learn.
learning.
I
Love
know.
it. I love it.
So her cats and my cats are strictly indoor cats. I know outdoor cats are the foe of birds, but I will say for cat enrichment, nothing beats feeding the birds because my cat has her own armchair where she sits and I put the seed right outside the window. And so, of course, it also gets the squirrels, too. And she just sits there and chatters at them all morning long in full murder mode. And then she passes out exhausted from trying to kill everybody through the glass all the time. She cannot get out. I would never let her out. But she enjoys bird watching as much as I do. So
That's very true. Yeah, I actually moved to this Audubon sanctuary with 2 outdoor cats. That's what you did in the day. And they did
Wow.
not last long because of everything that's bad out there for outdoor cats. From
Yes.
great horned owls to coyotes. So if you love your cats, indoor is the way to go.
Yeah, we have a lot of coyotes in the area and fisher cats and
Oh,
oof.
wow,
I want to see a fisher.
Yeah. Oh, the sound of them at night is like it's a little scary, but the coyotes and also foxes very often will get the outdoor cats. So yes, we keep them inside here.
It's good.
Mhm.
It's a good thing. Yeah, that's one of the things that when you look at lists of things that people can do to help birds, that's sometimes a third rail issue with people. particularly when you get into the very difficult topic of feral cat colonies. People want to be compassionate, but those colonies become bird deserts. And they said, well, no, we're feeding them. But if you drag a string in front of a cat, it's going to pounce on it. It doesn't matter whether it's hungry or well fed or not. It's just their reflexes. They're great at that. They're great at jumping and snatching and catching. That's what they're wired for. And it's a tough issue because there was a whole lawsuit out on the barrier beaches of New York because they were putting a feral cat colony right next to endangered shorebird nesting area. And you're like,
Aw.
wait, we're spending all this money to bring the shorebird back, but yeah. So they did move that one, thankfully. Yeah.
So one thing that's nice about birding is that it's very accessible. Anybody can, I mean, even if you're in the city, you can walk into Central Park and see birds. So you don't necessarily need a lot of gear or expertise or anything else. And especially there are these free bird sanctuaries. So that's fantastic. However, like any hobby, you can also get the gear if you would like to. Do you have any thoughts or recommendations? Are there any good books that are a good introduction to birding? Do we need good binoculars? Is there anything that can enhance your birding experience as you get into this?
Yeah, we actually point people to allaboutbirds.org. Just like one stop. That's the portal from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. So you can look at photos, songs, videos of all the birds in North America, plus they're expanding around the world. They have all kinds of very cool online classes at what they call their Bird Academy, several which are free to get you started. And then if you want to go deep, they have a class on sparrows, one on shorebirds, one on ducks. And I actually bought those myself and I watch them every season to just refresh about sparrows, starlings, shorebirds, whatever's coming up, warblers. So that's like a one stop, and they'll recommend some offline resources there too. And it really does help because birds move fast. Binoculars really are probably the thing you want to think about the most. And there's a lot of the price of binoculars has come down so much. I grabbed a pair here. The key mistake people make is binoculars have two numbers. It's either 8x or 10x that you want. That's magnification, obviously. But the second number is like this size on the end. And that should be like a 1:5. So 8x40, 10x50, because you need enough light and enough real estate when you look through to get on the birds and be able to tell what they are. There's a lot out there you can get a decent starter pair for $70, $80, like Celestron Outland is one that we buy in quantity for our walks. But if you want a pair that has an amazing warranty, we really like Vortex. It's got a lifetime warranty. I could drop these, run over them with my car, and send all the pieces back. And they would send me a new pair.
It's incredible.
It's the best warranty in the business. But then there's a bunch of names out there. Zeiss, which is lovely. And then if you want to go crazy good, Swarovski, so forth. But people, they make binoculars, not just crystals. So birders are funny when they're walking around. They'll look and see what kind of binoculars people have to get a sense of where they are. You know, it's a thing. But binoculars make a huge difference in being able to see the birds because they don't want to be close to people. So with the bends, you can look at a bird across the yard in a shrub and watch it go about its business, which is so cool. See what it's doing, poking around, see what other birds are there without scaring it, right? Without it flying away. So binoculars.
All right.
Number one. But the other thing to get going, I mentioned the community, is to go out with other birders. And there's so many free walks. Doesn't matter where you live. There's free bird walks. And another cool thing that's happening now, you're familiar with Discord. There's a social media channel that's out there. Kind of started with gamers, but now all different communities are using it. Discord is really big with birders now. There's a New York birding Discord that has different areas for every county and about equipment and all the rest. And it's a great way to have conversations. People can put the bird pictures up that they found and say, hey, what is this? And yeah, so Discord is a neat way that people are connecting now about birding.
It's a bird server.
It's a bird server.
Bird server.
It is. It is. The birders have from the beginning. It started with telephone answering machines. If you watched the classic movie, which is The Big Year, which is a hilarious movie. It's a great introduction to the birding world. It's a road trip with a lot of famous actors. Jack Black is among them. It's based on a true story and a very funny true book of guys that were competing to see the most birds in North America in a year. There was like a businessman, there was a ne'er-do-well computer guy, there was somebody else that was out of work for years, and that's all he did was bird, and his relatives were yelling at him. But the three of them ended up competing and running around the country. And the way they connected then, this was based, I want to say late 80s, early 90s, there was a telephone hotline. So you could call up and say, and you'd hear this recorded announcement of where the rarest birds were in North America. And then they would run and fly there and get them. Then, internet came along and there were all kinds of listservs and email lists. So it keeps evolving, how birders keep in track, and they have rare bird alerts, RBAs, to
That's
find
so
those
cool.
birds.
So not a lot of gatekeeping. Nobody has like their special spot that they won't share.
People do some gatekeeping. They do share the birds because they want people to know that they found the bird, right? So to get the glory, you have to share it.
Yeah.
But the only thing is, like nesting birds, owls, people do tend to be protective of those because they're such sensitive species.
Yeah.
So they might wait to post those for 2 or 3 weeks. Like with eBird, of course, is our main portal for sharing information. And that's an international database of sightings. You can go on eBird and see sightings up to the last hour, probably in your neighborhood. Go in, hit explore, put in your county, and you can see where birders are birding and what they're seeing. So yeah, with rare birds, people might not post them on eBird for a couple of weeks so they won't pop up in an alert, that kind of thing.
This is great also because I'm hearing you talk about all these resources and it's so accessible online for people who might not have the physicality to be able to go birding. I know my aunt is in an assisted living facility. Hi, Rochelle. She just she loves birds, and it's very sweet. They actually have a parrot, Oscar, who lives in the assisted living
Oh my
facility
goodness.
with them, and so she's there every
Yeah.
day feeding him pistachios and teaching him and all these things. It's great. She's had so many birds in her life, but she can't get out and bird anymore. She can't go
Yeah.
out there and see them. So I have to hook
Yeah.
her up on some of these resources. That's fantastic.
Well, the other thing is, the nest cams and the feeder cams. Like right now,
Yes.
if you go to allaboutbirds.org, they have a link right there for nest cams around North America, like the inside of a barred owl nest and a bunch of eagle nests. And you can watch them the way you did the robin nest. I think that's fantastic. I know
Yes.
a lot of school classrooms do that
Yeah,
too.
it was really fun with the kids too, for them to, they wanted to check it every day to see how they were doing. It's very sweet. I saw one of the eagle nests, I can't remember where it was from recently, the nest cams, and it was a late season snowstorm. And there they were, like the snow was covering them and they were covering their babies. And it was really phenomenal. And then all of a sudden, this big mound of snow, and they shook it off, and it was this beautiful eagle underneath all that snow. It was so cool.
That's a
Yeah.
great image. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It
am
was,
curious as to what influence Rochelle is going to have on Oscar's vocabulary.
yes. Yeah. My aunt has a colorful language. So,
Right.
yeah. Well, we'll have to find out if Oscar starts, repeating some of this colorful language. We'll see.
A lot of funny jokes about parrots and what they say. So, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she actually used to have one, and oh, she's gonna kill me for not remembering what type of bird, but
I
she
think she
used to
had
have,
an African gray.
she had an African gray. She did. She had two, but one of them would actually, when she was playing cards, would go around and then come back and help her cheat at card. Like knew, like
No.
it was the quirk. It was the craziest thing. Yeah, yeah. That was such a
Great.
smart bird. Such a smart bird.
Birds are a lot smarter than we thought, and it's coming out more and more. Like just the titmice and the chickadees, you
Yeah.
know, they
Oh, she
hide
loves
these
chickadees.
sunflower seeds and they
Mm-hmm.
find them. A huge percentage of them they remember and map and go back and get them again. As they
So
came the
smart.
winter. Yeah,
This
they're
the
brilliant.
same bird that she had actually helped. She had rescued a bird who actually didn't have feet. It was like the leg, something happened to it and couldn't fly, could like barely walk. And she rescued it and then ended up passing it on to somebody who could really rehab the bird. But her bird at the time would try to nudge this other bird and show him how to get the food and how to get this, and like
Oh,
took care of it. It was just phenomenal. They're just so smart, and it's just really
yeah.
incredible, really. So we have a lot of parks and trails for those that can get out here. We have
Mhm.
bodies of water to choose from. What do you have for some of the top spots for spotting birds? How do we pick a great place to spend a day if our goal is birding? And I guess, are there any specific times a day that might be better for bird activity?
Yeah. Well, it is true that the first few hours in the morning and the last hour or so before sunset are the most active times. Midday, it tends to be pretty quiet. It depends, though. If you're going for water birds, certainly throughout the Hudson Valley, we have tides, right, on
Mm-hmm.
the Hudson and on the Sound.
Sure.
And so you watch the tides. Usually 2 hours before or after a low tide, you get little bit more activity. So that's in terms of timing. But in terms of spots, if I'm going to a county I don't know about, I go to eBird. I hit explore and I put in location, I put in the county. It'll bring up the top 10 birding hotspots. And then it'll bring up the checklists that have been recorded there up to the last hour. And it'll make a bar chart showing me a whole list of birds through January, December. And if I'm going in March, this is what I do for birding trips, I can look down and see what birds are there in March at a glance.
Wow.
It's amazing data. So eBird is like my number one tool. But for the Hudson Valley, there's an amazing book. It's called Birding the Hudson Valley by Catherine Schneider. This is an amazing book because it not only has the hot spots, but for each of the spots, it'll have a trail map. It has the mapping. It tells you the best place to walk in there to find birds, what kind of birds to expect. It's a really well done book. Very, very pleased by this. It's a place I want to go see that I haven't been to, Franklin Mountain Hawk Watch, which is a big deal.
That's cool.
Where they get the most golden eagles there. Just very
Wow. That's
so
cool.
that's a great resource. And yeah, eBird is where we go first. The other thing you do is you go online and see what bird club or Audubon chapter is there, and then look at their newsletters, their scheduled events, and see where they're going in May. Where are they going birding in May? That tells you where the hotspot is. Where are they going in September? What kind of birding are they doing in October? Because there's a seasonality and a month by month progression of what we do in this game. And yeah, so people visit certain hotspots certain times a year. Yeah.
That's a great tip.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so cool that there's so much information and so readily available. And I feel very encouraged about how much people are taking an interest in getting back out and seeing birds and being among the trees. But one thing that's not as fun that I feel like we have to talk about. So you were talking about birds being indicator species of the health of an area. So there's the proverbial canary in the coal mine, but literally birds are an indicator species in wherever their environment is. So what are we seeing? So it sounds like we've had some really positive changes in our region, but what are your thoughts on the effects of climate change on bird species, their migration patterns, anything that we can do really at our kind of micro level to help other than maybe the native plants and making sure birds have access to water?
Yeah, we talk about the joy of birding and we talk about some of the interesting sort of charismatic birds that have shifted like bald eagles, such. But the overall picture of birds in North America is frightening. So right before COVID epidemic, right before the pandemic, there was a consolidated scientific study that came out that looked at breeding bird atlases, looked at eBird, looked at Christmas bird counts, which is something birders do. It looked at consolidated data going back to 1970, and it was going to be a compilation study and see, well, how are we doing? Some birds going up, some going down. Well, the scientists were gobsmacked. When the data was compiled, what we found out that we've lost 1 in 4 birds from 1970s. And there's a website that'll explain this called 3 Billion Birds, 3billionbirds.org. And it was stunning. And it's across habitats. So people were saying, oh, it was so much better. But even 30 years ago, which is when I moved to the Hudson Valley, the spring warbler migration was quite a bit different than it is now. There's just fewer birds. And there's a lot of main causes for that. Climate change is in the mix. But a lot of other things. Pesticides is huge, including rat poisons. Windows, cats, those are some different things that people are trying to change and improve to help birds. There's a huge kill from windows, and people are working on bird-safe windows now. So birds don't understand windows. They're visual creatures, and when there's a reflection of the forest in the windows, they think they can fly through. So there's a lot about that. You can learn all about that at 3billionbirds.org. And the other place that's really doing great work on this is the American Bird Conservancy. When they say America, they mean Canada, US, all the way down through the Americas. So abcbirds.org is, I think, one of the best organizations. They've taken the lead on the cats issue and the windows issue. And so there's things that we can all do, whether it's our residents, whether it's where we work, schools, houses of worship, downtown areas, we can all have an impact on that. I have a friend who started to ask questions in the town here, Chappaqua, of what was being done in terms of those little black boxes around foundations. That's rat poison.
Mm.
There's good rat poison and there's bad rat poison, and most are
Well, not if you're a rat.
Yeah, it's never good for the rats. But yeah, exactly right. Nobody wants rats. Who wants rats?
No,
But
not
if
me.
you use the wrong kind, hawks and owls eat that half dead rat and they die. And so we've picked up bald eagle poisoned by rat poison. We've picked up red-tailed hawks. So there's another great website, raptorsarethe.solution.org, and it actually an acronym for rats. Raptors are the solution, and they have all kinds. Started in the West Coast. It's really spreading here now. Connecticut has a bill or limiting rodenticides now. There's ones we have to kind of struggle with some of these species that are pest species. Literally, they cause disease. They can damage infrastructure. Rats are a concern, but how we attract them, how we attack them, makes a difference for rat eaters. Anyway, so 3 billion birds, and your canary in the coal mine thing is absolutely right. They're telling us that some of our habitats aren't healthy. The pesticides that people have chosen over the years aren't good for people any more than they are for birds. So, yeah, better choices.
And it was 3 billion birds with the number 3, you said?
With the number 3, that's an awesome website. It lists all those different actions. It gives people steps they can take, advocacy things they might want to try. ABC Birds is the other site I mentioned, and they have very good pamphlets you can print out about rat poison, about cats, to help people consider other ideas. Because it's not just the joy of birds we're losing, it's the habitat quality that the birds are telling us about. It makes a difference. I have some hope because birds can spring back. We may well have an extinction level on some species of birds, particularly due to climate change. Audubon has climate.audubon.org has some of the latest data. What they're doing is they're shifting their habitats as fast as they can. Their departure and arrival times are changing significantly just in the last decade. We're watching birds scramble to try to adapt as fast as they can because for them it's survival, right? Ranges are shifting. Where birds are found is their range. That's shifting. And so when we go out and we do a bird walk and we make an eBird list, and we share it with a group, everybody's happy. But that becomes part of this database, that it's a data set that we can see this dynamics system shifting, with that data. So it's pretty cool. They're telling us that we really have to act now to sustain the planet. And of course, we have this massive setback right now in the U.S., which is so sad and infuriating because the clock is short. Fortunately, the rest of the world, China is shifting because they see the economics of it. Right. And they know the effects of that many people on their air quality, for example. They are shifting, and hopefully we will again too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not going to ask you your favorite bird because that's mean, but I will ask you okay, who are your top 3? You can have 3 or 4 if you need to.
Kestrel. Kestrel is my absolute favorite bird.
Oh, all right. That was easier than I thought.
Yeah, size of a robin, smallest diurnal raptor around here. It's a falcon, and the male looks like a parrot. It's got all these colors. Female is a little browner because she hides for the nest. Yeah, top. And then peregrine is second, the other falcon.
Yes.
And third, gosh, I haven't thought about that actually. Probably some of the warblers. Which one? Magnolia warbler. Magnolia warbler.
Look that up now.
Isn't that a great name?
Yes.
Yeah, they don't nest here, but they nest up in the Northwoods, and they're just a spectacular looking little bit of bird. So much color on them and pretty song. And I hope they survive. They're one that's in decline, so I have a heart place for them. Yeah.
Well, you've definitely inspired me. I want to get out there and go birding now.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, go. And this is the best time of year. When we go do a bird walk in May, a bird walk leader like myself, we feel a certain pressure to come up with the requisite eye candy. So you got to have, and you can, if you're doing a walk mid-May in the Hudson Valley, there's some birds everybody wants to see. Scarlet tanager, brilliant red bird, black wings, Baltimore oriole, like highway orange, right? And what else would there be? Oh, rose-breasted grosbeak, this black and red, stark-looking bird. And then throw in indigo bunting for dessert, which looks like a sparrow dipped in blue. So people love the colors, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not picky or fancy. I'm happy if I just see a cardinal and a blue jay in the
There you
backyard.
go.
It doesn't have to be fancy.
I have a little goth bird heart, so I'm happy with any corvids. I mean, corvids are the most brilliant birds. I know they don't talk like the African grays, but I mean the wisdom of crows is amazing.
Yes.
And ravens have a real vocabulary. They are so cool. Another bird that's expanded. They're nesting in Manhattan now. They never used to be. Yeah, they've moved all the way down the Hudson, and there's raven nests in Manhattan, which is crazy.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, so as much as climate change has affected them, and we do need to get on it, like now, like yesterday, it, like Jen said, encouraging. It's very encouraging. It's very hopeful to hear about these new areas and these new nesting sites. That's great. That's great. So is there anything else that we didn't ask about that you really want people to know about birding?
I think I would say that birding is one of the best ways I know to connect with where you are and when you are. It's a grounding, a step back from the chaos and the screen time and the doom scrolling. It's a grounding of place and time is, I think, one of the best gifts that birds give us.
That's beautiful. Mindfulness and being in the moment, right?
Yeah, there's something a little zen about it because you can't have an attachment. You can go out saying, I really want to see a bald eagle today, but it is not up to you. It is up to the bald eagle. So you have to just be open to whatever you see and whatever you don't see and know that there's next time. So that is a really good exercise in our kind of expectations and letting go.
Yeah.
That's right. Well said. That's exactly right. I hadn't thought about that aspect of it, but that's, you're not in control of it.
Beautiful. Love that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you, and you just have so much information and knowledge, and thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun talking with you too. So thank you. Take care.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for listening. Please like and subscribe, rate and review, because as we know, it all helps tremendously. Do you love the Valley Girls? Tell a friend. Have ideas for the podcast? Tell us. The easiest way to chat with us is our Facebook group, Valley Girls Podcast Pod Squad, or you can contact us through our website, valleygirlspodcast.com, where you can also sign up for our newsletter so you never miss a thing. And of course, we're on Instagram at valleygirlspodny. We can't wait to hear from you. Oh, and do you love our theme music as much as we do? The music for this episode is by Robert Burke Warren, entitled Painting a Vast Blue Sky, and can be found on his album Redheaded Friend, available on iTunes and Spotify, and at the link in the show notes. Bye for now.